Hello friends, this is Alvin from the shop here in downtown Pomona, bringing you today my King deck profile, which I used to secure a top 8 again at Top Choice Gaming. I wanted to share with you my King list because for lack of a bunch of deck profiles out there isn't too much King, and I didn't want anyone who was discouraged to play him to not play him. So now that the new film cards are out, I believe it's a good time for people to start playing King because the new cards are fit for a King. So in this part of the video, we'll be going over my deck list using the brand new film cards that just came out. I think they're wonderful. Going forward, if you're going to be playing King, you should always be using them. So to start with, a very controversial card, I guess, between the community, especially like as a King player. I only use 2 Onigashimos. A lot of people are gonna hate on me for this, tear me a new one, but I think it's only a 2 of in the King deck. Because we don't actually care about ramping up too much, because like early game, if you have it up, or you're gonna want to play this early game, right? Like that's what most players do, and then you give up a way to defend yourself. Because if you get rushed down, you just die. Ideally, I only use it to maintain 10 Dawn towards the late game once we have our effect in place, and that's what helps us win the game. Next up, we're starting off with our film cards. Play 4 Buena Festa. It's our new purple searcher, the best searcher now for purple. It searches all of our film cards and lets us get to our main primary attacker of the whole deck. Next up, we play 4 Yuta. I love this card. It's one of the best cards out there for purple now. As soon as she gets onto the board, everyone decides and they just start playing around it. Demands a response, and if it doesn't, you can heavily punish your opponent for playing into it. And I wouldn't cut it down for anything. 4 up, no matter what. Next up, we have our next film card. He's also our attacker, Shiki. Busted card. I would tell you, like, the King matchup against Kid is heavily favored for you once you get Shiki onto the board, because green can never out this card once you have 8 Dawn. So if they have a Kid, this card literally just deals with the Kid and makes your opponent discard cards for it. So the more you get onto the board, the better. And also, your leader also helps out because 7 to Kid's 7 as well. Next up, we play 2 Bullets. I was thinking about not playing him at all because he's like a heavy cost card and he minuses 4, so it's hard for us to get back to our 10 Dawn. But I still like having him in because when you're about to close the game, he comes in really clutch. And then as long as he's on the board, they're going to be playing into you, like no matter what. So if they play 2 blockers, those blockers are just gonna get rested and then you can close out the game. So ideally, I try to kill my opponent at 2 life when I have this card already. Next up, we play regular purple cards from the original OP1 sets. We play place of ulti and 4 page ones. Surprisingly enough, I didn't actually get to use these cards to attack with. I ended up mainly using them for counter, but I did like having them in for the option of getting 2 bodies on the board in the blue matchup, so that if I get Mihogged or Flamingoed, it didn't matter because I would still have a body and the leader would help them get over cards. Next up, we play another blocker. There's 4 Black Maria. This card's really strong as well. It's a 4 cost, it's a blocker, and she can get to 6k and then 10 with a counter. And she's also a counter herself for 1k. Surprisingly enough, I did not actually use her that much. If anything, I used her like twice to block in the red matchup. Most of the time I ended up just dropping her for counter. She might change, the number I might play will change maybe in the future, but for now, I think she's really good to keep into the deck. And then purple staples. I like playing 4 queens. This is our best blocker. It's also our draw power. And it only minuses a Dawn, so Onigashima helps us maintain our 10 for the leader as well. And there's a lot of times where you're actually going to be attacking with this. I would not change anything about this card. Following that, we have more draw power in the shape of 4 Kyoshiro. He's another 5-drop. On play, if you have 8 or more Dawn, draws you another card. So sometimes my turns will come out, I'll be playing Queen and then a Kyosho to draw 3 cards total. 6k, but technically a 7 once your leader is in effect. So he's also a solid attacker as well. It's basically a glorified upstart goblin. After that, we play 4 X-Drake. X-Drake is -1 to make your opponent discard. I primarily used it just to counter, but there was times where when an opponent was getting low on cards in hand, I would play this to make them drop another card. That way it's harder for them to protect their cards on the board. Or if they have 1 card in hand or no cards in hand, I'll hit them for their life. They get their card, and then I'll follow it up with this to make them discard that new card, and then swing again. So that way it can't get countered. And then finally, we get to main boy. 2 6-drop kings. I like this in the purple or blue matchup. Sometimes blue, purple, green, red. It's good against all of them. You have a lot of targets you can hit with it, and it's only a -1 dot for 7k. And yeah. Then we play 2 7-drop king. I like this in the green matchup and the red matchup. There's a lot of cards you can hit with it. Yes, it minuses 2, but sometimes it's worth it when you're trying to get rid of their board. I might not play more of him. I might even cut him down to 1 and replace it with another 6-cost king, because for 7 drop, I don't want like 7k. I wish it was bigger, but it's all right. I still think it's worth playing. Now we get to counter cards. Play 2 Blast Breath. I didn't want to play 4 because I didn't want to greed and use 2 Blast Breaths or 3 in the same turn, because then I won't be able to hit 10 Dawn following this. But it's a great card to have, so it's just a solid 2 of. It doesn't have any like trigger effect either, so that's the other reason why I didn't want to play more. Next up, we play Union Armada. This card's our other counter card. It pairs wonderfully with Yuta because this makes her unkillable for the whole turn. By battle, or I think anything. Oh no, it's just anything. So it gives her 4k, and then she can't die for the whole turn. It's extending how long she can punish your opponent for attacking. And then our last card, we play 2 Thunder Bagua. This card's kind of good once you pair it up with Blast Breath. So you always start with Blast Breath when you counter first, and then you counter with this after, so you can get your Dawn back and stay at 10. I also hit a lot of triggers with this, surprisingly, for only playing 2. So I was getting a lot of active Dawn for free. And that wraps up my main deck list. In this part of the video, I just want to talk about my matchups really quick. We played a total of 6 rounds in Swiss up against 38 other players. I played against 2 Luffys, 2 kids, a blue-purple Croc player, and I forgot the last one. It was Law, and I played against a Law player. All of those matchups were really, I would say they were pretty favored for us for the most part, because Shiki is a pretty insane card. The only one I was worried about playing was blue, which fortunately I didn't get to play against. So that really helped us, as well as the red matchup. And green is heavily favored for us as well. Shiki auto wins that matchup. For red, it's like you're playing a Zoro mirror match, but you have purple cards, and purple cards are just really good because you're playing a lot of high cost cards that cannot be hit by Jet Pistol sometimes, and they have to burn 2 cards just to get rid of 1 on your side. But you do lose to the rush, which is fine because we hold off on the Onigashima just so we can have our counters active in the early game, or we just don't play it at all so we could try to get damage in and pressure them, or play a blocker, or I don't think I'd make any changes to my deck. Maybe the Union Armadas, because they are pretty good, but you can only apply it to like your leader or your film characters, so you can't exactly use it on your blockers or anything else that you would want to attack with. I think that's it. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment for more. And I'd like to thank, once again, my sponsors here at 3-Bit, the shop, all my friends for coming, Top Choice Gaming for having me and giving me another mat, as well as everyone else who participated and helped keep the game alive. We do appreciate all of you guys playing the game. Thank you and have a nice day.